This week, again, as you just saw his picture, we're looking at lessons that my grandfather taught me while growing up, and lessons from my papa. And I've talked about the earthworm yesterday. Today, I want to talk to you about something else that he taught me, again, while we were out spending time together, which mostly centered around fishing. As I said yesterday, my papa thought it a sin to pay money for bait. And we didn't use artificial bait because that was fishing. We enjoy catching, not fishing. So we weren't out for the sport of it. We were out for dinner. And so we get live bait. And one of the best live baits, obviously, next to a night crawler, is that of minnows and then crawdads. I had no problem catching the minnows. We would go seining, which I may talk about later this week. But catching crawdads was a different thing. Those had to be done by hand. And the first time that my grandpa taught me that, we went to Holes Creek down in West Carrollton and parked his truck, and we got out, walked down into the creek, and he taught me what a crawdad was. I wasn't really sure, and so I thought it was, when I saw it, I thought it was a lobster, but it's a small little crayfish that has two pinchers on it. That scared me to death. I didn't want to get pinched. And my grandpa, we got in the water and we started walking down through there in the creek. And he said, "Well, the first thing you have to do is pick up this rock." And I'm sure my grandpa was having fun with me. He said, "You never know what you're going to find under the rock. Hopefully a big old crawdad." He said, "But maybe there'll be a snake, or there might be a leech, or there might be," he started listing all this stuff. By the time he was done, I was scared to death to lift them rocks. And he said, "But you need to find a rock that you can tell there's maybe something could be under it." That scared me to death. And then when he told me that it had big old pinchers and to be careful, because them pinchers grabbed me, and I'm sure he made it worse than it was. I know he did. And I started. He said, "Well, go ahead." And I went in there. I was scared. I wouldn't even pick up the rock. He started laughing at me, and he taught me this lesson. He said, "You can't live in fear." He said, "Sometimes you just got to go forward when you know what you're doing." And so he taught me to carefully lift it. And of course, first time I did, I just want to rip that rock up really quick and throw it and jump back 10 feet. And he said, "You can't do that, because if you just rip that rock up, it stirs all the dust up. And by the time everything settles, that crawdad's gone." There's an art to lifting that rock in that little stream to where you don't even disturb even the sand on the bottom, so you can see clearly. Finally, he taught me how to do that. And I lifted that up, and I'll never forget the first time I saw a crawdad. There he was, staring back at me. And my grandpa said, "Now," he said, "you got to go slow. You got to reach your hand in there." And the first time I did, of course, that crawdad took off and I jumped. But he taught me, he said, "Them crawdads are a lot more afraid than you are. They live in fear." And notice every time, I don't know if you ever gone crawdad catching, they never go forward at you. They always go backwards. And that crawdad would swim straight back and avoid us, and as fast as it could back to the next rock and hide underneath of it. He continued his lesson on fear. He said, "Travis John," he said, "you can't live in fear. Because if you live in fear like these crawdads, you'll just keep going backwards and backwards and backwards in your spiritual life, staying in dark places, always hiding, thinking that you're going to be okay, and you never are." He said, "You can't live in fear." And I'm thankful I finally got over my fear of crawdads. And I was able to lift a rock without moving a piece of dust. I was able to reach down in that water, snag them things, and catch them right behind their arms, or that what the pinchers were. Pick them things out of the water, throw them in a bucket. Loved it. Matter of fact, I got to a place where I enjoyed when they pinched my finger, because I found out it doesn't hurt. It's okay. Which he followed up with a lesson on this, that once you conquer your fear and you trust in the Lord, the sting of death and the sting of sin cannot touch you. Praise the Lord. So learn to catch crawdad. But more importantly, learn not to live in fear. Because if you do, your life's always be going the wrong direction. You're going to live in a dark place. You're never going to have joy in life. So I encourage you not to live in fear, to live in faith. My grandpa taught me that from a crawdad.